You're ready. It's ready. It's going now.
I was just about to go. I was giving it 5 seconds. And they do show me a countdown before it actually starts recording on my side. And welcome to Sacrilicious with Robin and Snerts, a Simpsons review podcast. I'm your lovable nerd Snerts, aka Joshua Stearns, and joining me is the equally delightful Robin. Don't have a cow, coward.
Hey, Josh. I'm doing great, man. How are you doing?
Doing well. Excited to talk about another couple episodes of The Simpsons. And
yes, it's going to be a very exciting afternoon, apparently.
Yes, and if the internet is our friend, we'll actually be able to keep this recording. So if you're joining us for the first time, congratulations, you made it in on the second episode, which means, Robin, we have a streak of 2.
We do, and it's the longest streak of this podcast ever.
And you know what's the best part is, like, I think we can beat that record if we do just one more, maybe. But if this is your... I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, plan for the worst and expect the best, I guess.
There you go. And if this is your first episode, here's how it works. I pick an episode of The Simpsons. Robin picks an episode of The Simpsons. Then we talk. It's that simple. So now, without further ado, let's jump into our first Simpsons episode. Robin, what did you bring us this week?
All right, Josh. We are watching an episode called EIEI.
Sound bars are cool.
I got clips. Hey, we're getting fancy, Josh. We're getting fancy over here.
Eat my shorts. Eat my
shorts. So, this is season 11, episode 5. EIEI Dope! And it's a great episode. It was one of those that starts fast and just a pile of jokes, like, right off the bat there, which, with these writers, you can't even take a breath before they have more jokes and more jokes that they've piled onto the writing. They really do an extraordinary idea of that.
I totally agree. And then for this one, the chalkboard gag stood out to me as like one of the first jokes that made me go, And it said, "I did not win the Nobel Fart Prize," which to me is the perfect 10-year-old boy or 8-year-old, however old Bart is. It's a perfect little boy joke. It has a fart. It's kind of funny. I could just imagine somebody, like when I was growing up, blurting that out in class for whatever reason, because it has the word fart in it. And this episode was directed by Bob Anderson and written by Ian Maxtone Graham. So where does the Simpsons family start us off after we got that glorious chalkboard and couch gag?
The episode opens up on the Springfield Googleplex Theater, which is already hilarious. It's got the titles on the marquee there that are just brilliant. The first one was, I know that we both loved, was My Dinner with Jar Jar.
Misa wanna have some salt. Misa wanna pass the gravy.
Misa wanna have an existential crisis. Based on the famous movie, which was just two men talking the whole time, called My Dinner with Andre. But they go on. There's Mars Needs Towels. Shakespeare in Heat. Face Puncher 4. And a great one. It sounds a bit like a porno flick. I'm not sure what the Googleplex is showing, but it's called Das Booty Call. Of course,
they had in a
German.
They had in a previous episode where Homer goes to see Hunk If You're Horny, and it seems to be at the same movie theater. So I do think there's a porn section, that probably has even stickier carpet than usual.
It's Springfield for you. So we go into the theater and they're watching Marge and Lisa watching this movie. It's this very dramatic, epic scene of storming the beaches at Normandy in World War II. There's bullets flying everywhere, and this GI runs in and stabs the Nazi with his bayonet, and he dies in a pool of blood. And then the GI turns. It's a commercial. He turns to the screen. He goes, "Cool off with a Buzz Cola." And the dead Nazi wakes up and goes, "Available in the lobby," which I thought was hilarious. We're just like, He's like, who's gonna like fall for that? And of course, Homer like jumps up. He's like, "I'll be in the lobby," and runs out to get a soda immediately, which is hilarious.
Yeah,
And then it doesn't stop it there either.
It definitely had that Saving Private Ryan D-Day opening vibe. And then you have the hard juxtaposition with an ad, and you're just like, classic Simpsons misdirection.
Classic. Take a hard left. So then, they just continue to pile it on. Homer goes out to the lobby. He's like, get some milk duds. And he says, put some butter on it, which is already nasty. And the guy's like, I don't think we're supposed to do that. He's like, well, you're supposed to wash your hands too. He's like, touche. He just starts filling the milk duds up with this like that greasy, nasty popcorn butter.
Yeah.
You do it more. It just overflows, and the milk duds are floating in the ooze. It's disgusting.
And he has my line that I like out of that whole thing was "Swim, my pretties." It's just like, oh my god. So but then he has to go back and watch the movie, which I found hilarious because it is the Poke of Zorro.
The Poke of Zorro is the epic that they're actually there to see, and it's hilarious. This movie is a mess. It's great. It's mixing genres in the most. He's fighting the Musketeers, which is ridiculous. And he like stabs the Musketeers, like haha. He stabs 3 of them at once, and of course they were the good guys, so it doesn't make any sense. And he carves a Z into the Man in the Iron Mask, which is a Dumas reference, one of my very favorite French writers. And he carves a Z, and he goes, "What's the N for?" And he goes, "No, it's a Z. I will return King Arthur to the throne." It's
and then they cut to Bart, and he's like, "Oh, it's like history coming alive.
It's history come to life."
That's
great.
And then of course Lisa corrects him. But then what I like is they have a little line that says like, "Oh, here comes the ninjas." And they don't show the ninjas in the movie.
Now it's not quiet. Here come the ninjas.
Yeah. So this movie has Zorro, the Man in the Iron Mask, ninjas, 3 Musketeers,
King Arthur,
and King Arthur. And they mirror, of course, that movie, The Mask of Zorro, right, where he's like cutting off the ladies' clothes. And what is on the undergarments of the ladies' clothes?
Well, he cuts the big Z, of course, for Zorro, and he sees SP for the Scarlet Pimpernel, and he's like, "The Scarlet Pimpernel," and she goes, "Oh, I promised we were just friends." Bart goes, "She's lying! Chop her head off!" Bart's a little psychopath there, but that's where we get to the crux of this whole episode. It's Zorro, not Homer. Zorro runs and finds the Scarlet Pimpernel at the opera house in the balcony in the dramatic final scene. He challenges the Scarlet Pimpernel to a duel by removing his glove and slapping him across the face. He says,
sorry.
Go ahead, please.
He's like, "Sir, I demand satisfaction. I challenge you to a duel." Glove slap.
He goes, "Will you duel or are you a coward?" And like the penultimate moment of the movie is the Scarlet Pimpernel going, "I am a coward," and running off, like scurrying off. Everybody cheers at the end of the movie, except for, of course, the King Arthur now is in the next balcony at the opera house going, "I declare Zorro king," and everybody cheers and throws in the crowd. And then credits roll. Josh, do you remember what happened during the credits? That was so fun.
Yeah, so there's a little rap song that we hear, which I didn't think much of when I listened to the initial episode. But then, like a true nerd, I have The Simpsons on DVD, and I like the DVD commentary, and I gave it a listen. Apparently, Dan Castellaneta, the voice of Homer, Grandpa Simpsons, and he even did the genie for some Aladdin stuff. He has done tons of voices. Very, very talented person. And it shows because he improvised an entire rap song according to the people on the DVD commentary. So they weren't even,
and it was good.
Yeah, and they weren't even going to have a song against the credits, but Dan just kind of did this in the booth, and they went with it. So that's kind of like one of those magical things that I love about voice acting and animation is sometimes like people just come up with stuff on the fly, and it's like just amazing, and they put it in and they go with it.
When they do those things, they also do them very well. They don't shy away from it. If they're going to do it, they don't want it just to be kind of silly. They want it to. They think it's more funny to do it in a way that's well done and ridiculous.
Yeah, it's not like the vice principal at a middle school going like, hey, I'm here to say that drugs are in the baddest way. Like,
if you read your books, you'll get an A.
Yeah. So
we could actually, maybe Josh, maybe we should actually do that, like
become
white
rap
people
stars
raps as like our thing for our podcast.
That's what the world wants, is more white rappers. That's what everybody wants.
All right, back to the episode. Homer is really excited. He loves this movie. He's going crazy during the theater. He's like, "You go, Zorro," which I loved because it's him doing his kind of metrosexual, voice, which I love about Homer. Homer is really comfortable with himself. It allows him to explore his metrosexual side, which is
absolutely
a credit to the writers. So he loves it. So they go out and they're leaving the theater and they go into the lobby and it all starts with Snake, the famous villain who robs the local stores, the crook with a heart of gold, Snake, character that I love, Josh.
Yes, who's definitely not Nelson's dad.
Listen, we're learning. We're growing.
So, folks at home, during our first recording attempt that we lost, Robin claimed that Snake was Nelson's father, and I had to correct him and let him know that that's not the case. But I do like that idea. I kind of want to retcon this, so it is, because I can imagine
to adopt him.
Yeah, I can imagine Snake being like a better dad than the guy who went out for a pack of smokes all those years ago and never came back. They could drive around in the little bandit car and do little robberies together. It's just adorbs. Like I love it.
It's great.
Yeah.
But Snake is a bad guy. I mean, he's brandishing guns and robbing places. Like he's not afraid of a little violence. He runs for the cops all the time. It's great.
Yeah. So how does Homer confront Snake?
So he blows past Marge, knocks Rose, and Homer goes, "He insulted your honor." And he grabs a glove that's hanging out of the janitor's back pocket, and he strolls over to Snake. He goes, "You have insulted our honor." And he slaps him across the face. It says, "I challenge you to a duel." And reminiscent of Zorro, of course. And Snake is like, "Are you freaking crazy? What is wrong with you?" And Homer goes, "Will you duel or are you a coward?" The great line from the movie.
Well, and so like my question is, have you ever been slapped by a glove?
I think I have, yes.
Now, was it just for the bedroom fun stuff, or was it actually like someone being is their honor being insulted?
As you well know, I was in the theater.
So a dramatic presentation of the glove slap. Okay,
and we do Shakespeare from time to time in the theater. If you've heard of him. I love that movie.
Good old Billy.
Life. Shakespeare and Heat. And yes, so there was in Shakespeare there was duels.
Okay, yeah, but nothing, not like the mean streets of Hot Atlanta.
So Homer challenges him, and Snake starts to reach into his vest. He's like, "Would a coward do this?" And pulls out his hand and waves, "Bye!" and runs off, and which is hilarious.
Bye.
Why? It scooches off, and of course Homer's won, and the crowd cheers, and he's so, chuffed with himself. And Marge goes, "You defended my honor," and he grabs the ketchup and carves a big H in her chest with the ketchup bottle.
Yeah, and poor Marge, she gets slammed with condiments and liquids. In the earlier scene, the butter was being spilled on her eggs. Like, "Your hot butter is scalding my leg." And
Homer's like, "Shut up, Marge!" And it's like, it looks painful.
Yeah, and then a ketchup, H on her dress. I mean, she's gonna go home and have a lot of laundry and probably wants a nice warm bubble bath.
Dry cleaning bills are gonna be out of this world.
Yeah. So yeah. So where do we?
So that's the start of it. Homer's had success. He's defended her honor, and he's chuffed with himself. And we go to Moe's, of course, because he's often at Moe's. And Seymour walks in with his mother, and his mother, of course, is doing her classic voice. "You shouldn't have had all those frescas." "Mother, you're embarrassing me." "No, I'm not. Seymour needs to use the toilet because of he's got a full bladder full of urine." And so Moe's like, it's down at the end of the bar, past the heavyset fellow. And Homer gets offended, of course. He goes, what do you mean, heavyset? And Moe's like, no, I take it either there, Homer. I'm just saying you know Tommy Tune. No Tommy Tune, eh? That's it. You've insulted my honor. And he slaps Moe across the face with the glove. I challenge you to a duel. Trying it out again, and Mo does the same thing. He's like, whoa there, Homer. Duel, isn't that a little extreme? And he says, here, have a beer on me, a free beer. And Homer realizes he's won in this massive way because Mo never gives a free beer.
You can see the power being recognized and him immediately going to abuse it. You just know.
His eyes go wide. He is so excited. Wow, just because of a little slap. So, of course, then we get into the great song of the episode, Glove Slap. Baby, glove slap. I asked on the previous faulty episode if we knew if the B-52s had actually recorded that, and he said there wasn't much about it on the commentary.
Yeah, I don't know if they just had talented musicians who can mimic, that song, but it is definitely based off the B-52's Love Shack song,
of course.
And they do play it, and music is not my forte, so a lot of that stuff kind of washes over me.
If it wasn't the B-52s, they did a fantastic job.
Yeah,
but it's a hilarious song. And of course, it's a montage.
And by now, The Simpsons have a budget. Like, this is what, season 11 or 12 that we're doing. So by now, they can afford to bring in the musicians or get somebody from the Fox lot, like orchestra or something to that nature.
Everybody watched The Simpsons. It was big time.
So,
but of course, that's over the montage, Josh, which is hilarious.
And my favorite part of the montage,
him slapping people,
is he goes to Dr. Hibbert's office, and there's an injection, and to avoid the gun slap, Hibbert injects himself, gives Homer a lolly, and then passes out on the floor. So I don't
was in the syringe, Josh?
Yeah, what is in the syringe? And also, like, wouldn't you just want to be slapped with the glove versus stabbing yourself? I mean, I don't like needles, man. So like, I would rather just if I had that choice, like injection or glove slap. And I didn't know what that injection was.
The alternative is actually accepting the duel.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I guess
Sabers at sunset.
There you go.
My favorite was the first one was the toll booth attendant. And it's 50 cents, and Homer slaps him, and he's just horrified and like shocked and like horrified, and immediately opens the gate for him. But the look that he gives is just like it's troubling what this Homer is doing, and he's just going around slapping everybody to get what he wants. At the end of this montage, he pulls up to the Quickie Mart, love slap, fades away.
And at this point, he's like so nonchalant about it. He's just like, there's a line of a dozen people or whatever, and he's just like coming through, honor, offensive, blah 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 blah,
blah blah blah. And then, how dare you demand satisfaction?
And then there's some comeuppance, right? We get some comeuppance.
Well, he goes, how dare you demand satisfaction? You hear this southern drawl go, sir, I accept. What? Pistols at dawn. Yeah, it's a what? And he goes, oh man, why did I have to slap somebody that says sir?
Yeah. And, this guy is a very stereotypical Southern gentleman, right? And
my Colonel Sanders outfit on, and
right. And my personal name for him is Foghorn Leg Duelist.
I see.
Yeah. So I also love the joke too, where they're like, "Oh, I need a gravestone and a dueling permit or something like that."
I don't mind.
And then they come back to the house, and
they come back to the house, and I love this because it's such great dark humor. Is that Homer's pacing, worried, scared for his life that he's about to die, and he bought the headstone, and it's leaning there against the couch. It's like, well, that's pretty much how it's going to go.
And it says on the gravestone, Homer J. Simpson, friend to all.
It's true. He never met anybody he didn't.
So the other fun joke is that I just realized now is he keeps calling the National Weather Service and asking if dawn is still happening. And then the person reports back and says, like, I wish you would stop calling. It's still going to be at 6.
Please stop
And
calling.
so then we cut to the Simpsons bedroom, and we have Homer and Marge there, just kind of waiting for the dawn, right?
Yeah, he's whimpering in bed and scared, and he finally falls asleep. He has dreams about the glove slapping people and blaming me for it. And dawn arrives as they're discussing, and of course, you hear the horn that he has on his giant
Yeah,
RV, our
Dukes of
dueling
Hazzard,
colonel,
Dukes of
and
Hazzard horn.
calls him out. Sir, I say, sir, the time has come. And they look out the window. Homer's like, falls off the ground, and they look outside, and it's great. He's there, the dueling colonel with the hat and the pistols in hand, and this RV that he's driving is just covered in stickers showing that he's clearly like a dab hand at dueling.
Yeah, this is a passion of his.
Exactly, absolutely. He's a lifelong member of the Charleston Dueling Club. And his wife pops out, and Homer goes, and she's gorgeous. She's got knockers out to here. Homer goes, Marge goes, go ahead.
No, I just love it. It's like, Homer, it's like, hey, I'm not dead yet.
I'm not dead yet. And they immediately go into him going, oh, Marge, you have to save me. I saved you.
Why don't you have his wife save you?
And Marge gets petty, Oh, let her save you, Homer. And Homer does a gag. You said you loved her. He goes, oh, Marge, that's in the past. You got to forget about that. Of course, it was 3 seconds earlier.
Homer's idea of the past, anything that was in the past, just get over it. Come on, move on.
Well, so the colonel, the dueling colonel, is not to be, put off, and he's yelling, the hour's upon us. So we cut to Marge opens the door, and she starts bringing out this dead Christmas tree with the help of the children. And of course, Homer is hiding behind it. He's clung to it. And the colonel seeing this says, well, let me help you, of course. And they're like, no. And then he goes, well, at least let me shoot it to pieces. Bart goes, it's worth a try. Marge's like, no. So
the family's on the lam again, and this is the second episode that you've picked, and we are 2 for 2 on at least part of or the full family being on the lam. So will there be a 3? Stick around to find out, folks.
I was wondering. I wonder how many episodes have them fleeing.
I mean, off the top of my head, I know the movie is about them fleeing to Alaska, and so it is a trope that they pull out from time to time. But I do find it very interesting that this wasn't planned. That we're just like, oh, Robin's picking back to back. We got to get out of.
It was absolutely not planned.
Episodes, so that was very fun.
I tend to pick my episodes off of a line that stuck with me, throughout these. Yeah. And this is no exception to our 2 instances. So they're on the flea here, flea in the city. They're on the lam, and there's a sweet moment where Homer calls Flanders. He's like, Flanders, are they still there out? And they're like, yep, they look like they're settling in for the long haul, Homer. And so Homer realizes he's got to leak and never go back home again. And he has this touching moment with Ned where he goes, Ned, my gentle neighbor, I always wanted to tell you how much and he's about to declare, say he loves him. And he's a great friend to him, but it cuts him off and says, if you want to continue, please deposit 10 cents. And Homer instead is like, screw it. Yeah. Not worth 10 cents to tell him that.
And for the young kids at home, he was using a thing called a payphone. This is what existed in the time before cell phones. There was these payphones that people would put change into to make calls.
Back in before the cell phones and the dinosaurs were still roaming the earth.
Now they are moving along, and they come across Jimmy Carter building houses, and they get a nice little.
I love Jimmy Carter.
Yeah, your boy. Of course, you love Jimmy.
Well, George Boy. So what I love about it is the writers clearly see Jimmy Carter as up there with Martin Luther King and Mother Teresa as one of the they respect him a lot, and so he's one of those people that he's hard to make. You don't make fun of Jimmy Carter. You got to respect Jimmy Carter. But so making fun of somebody like that, it makes it all the funnier. And So anyway, so our Lisa says, Jimmy Carter, he's of course building a Habitat for Humanity house, his great charity where he builds houses for people who are really needy and gives them a place to live. It's wonderful. And so Lisa goes, "Hey, Jimmy Carter, will you build us a house?" He goes, "No, I only build them for the needy." And then Homer responds, "Come on, Carter, build us a house, you lazy bum."
And then Jimmy he finds his local
"You
glove.
have offended me, sir."
And then, of course, he's about to smack Homer, and we get a scream. There we go. And
he drives off as fast.
Yeah. So they're on Route 9, and where do they end up going there, Robin?
Well, so they run into the Route 9, and Homer's like, "Oh, Route 9, that's where I grew up. We could go to the family farm." And they run off down the road, and they pull up to Homer's childhood home,
Abe
which
Simpson's
is
farm.
Abe Simpson's farm growing up, which you see in a few episodes. And of course, it is decrepit.
Now, here's a fun
in the
thing.
home, it's all fallen
Here's
down.
a one fun fact that I'm going to interrupt you on. In a previous episode, Homer and sexual inadequacy, that's a hard word to say. They actually end the episode with Homer and Grandpa Simpson on the farm, and it burns to the ground. And this is what I love about The Simpsons and their rubber band reality. Do they need to keep that consistent? No. Why? Because they need a farm for this episode, and it might as well be Abe Simpson's farm.
You were piling through these episodes looking for, inaccuracies. You're not watching it correctly.
Yeah, but it is one of those things where I was kind of like, oh, that's funny. And I also kind of imagine this thing where like it like reconstructed itself from the ashes, much like the Phoenix or something of that nature. So then we start to get
of course,
what's some of the opening farm bits that we get.
Well, I mean, Homer, he's one of those people, when he gets into something, he gets so excited, and he's just so excited to be home, and he jumps out of the car and he rips off his clothes, and he's like, "Let's, last one to the swimming hole." And the swimming hole, of course, is like grown over. It is like a swampland there. And he's like, "Come on, Ma!" He's full character now as the country, bring the youngins.
Yeah,
there's no leeches in here. Lots of snakes though, and then they're moving in. They're looking around and they go into the house, and of course, just like the snakes in the swimming hole, there's just raccoons and rats everywhere in the house. Other nasty things, spiders. And Marge is like, "We can't stay here, Homer. It's full of raccoons." And Homer goes, "Just think of them as cats with rabies." Has a little raccoon on his shoulder, like, "Hi, little guy." The raccoon bites him, and Homer's like, you little scamp." But I love Homer's infectious enthusiasm here. It drives this episode.
It's also fun too because they have, they start to have all these different roles. It's like, "Oh, I'll get the tractor ready. I'll do this," and then it cuts to Marge, and it's like, "I'll repress the rage I'm feeling.
I'll repress my rage."
And that to me is like my favorite line of the episode because it is a very Marge thing to say and do. And it was anime. They show her gritting her teeth and stuff to that nature because like Marge is not on board for anything on this episode. It starts with her getting like spilt butter and ketchup, and now she's lost her home and she's at this farm that she hates. Like, this is Marge. It's
not been a good episode for Marge.
Marge is having a hard time this episode, and it actually continues. It continues down the line. And then
the thing about that with Marge is that I mean, she pins it up, and everybody knows that. And then every once in a while, the Simpsons writers will just let her go loose. Have an episode where it's Marge raging. But they're on the farm, and of course, there's a recurring gag in this where Homer's fixing up the tractor with Bart. And he drives it through his field, and he goes, "Ka-ching-ching," and it falls over on him, and he's trapped underneath.
I got sick of that joke. It was funny like the first time, and it didn't have the effect where it happens enough to where it's funny again for me.
Well, I'll tell you, I think why I found it more funny is because it's reminiscent of certain specific scenes in movies. Like, famous one is The Man in the Moon with a young Reese Witherspoon, her first movie. And it's that exact thing where the tractor falls over and kills the young man who's the star of this. And and that's why it's funny because that's a really tragic scene for people. It invokes that, and so to like just casually do it again and again.
See,
I
I
think the
didn't
joke
know
they're
that
trying to do
reference.
there.
So for me, it was just repeat humor. Although I did like the like second or third one where he's like eat break, eat break, eat break, and then Bart moves the eat break off, and he's like a sweet relief. So then they're gonna go. So Homer goes to the store, and this is one of the dirtiest jokes that The Simpsons has ever come up with, and he goes to a feed store, and it's called Sneed's Feed and Seed, formerly Chuck's, aka Chuck's Fucks and Sucks. So and this is a network show for like all ages, right? And the Simpsons get away with this stuff because you have to think about it. It's a very quick visual gag, but if you actually like think about what they're saying, they got away with like just murder for the most part. Like it's insane.
We agree that the writers on this show were absolutely brilliant, and there's a lot of episodes. They've been on air for 35 years, and they never fail to test that limit.
Right. And then I also like some of the lines that they were giving Homer.
It's classic.
Shit. Yeah.
He pulls up to the store, and of course the two yokels are sitting on the porch going, well, look at this city slicker. And in his German car, he's like, this car is Guatemalan. Pardon us, Mr. Gucci Lovers. I got these shoes off a hobo. La-di-da, Mr. Park Avenue Manicure. Homer goes, I'm sorry, I believe in good grooming, and runs into the store.
So, Robin, another question for you. Have you ever gotten shoes from a hobo?
No, I find that to be
so
unappetizing.
I just again, one of those throwaway lines like the journal of the last episode, right? With the uncle. We have like, I'm like, does Homer go around town being like, hey, I'll give you $5 for those shoes?
Those are some nice shoes.
Yeah, so that one stood up for me.
And so Homer's buying his supplies at Chuck's Fucking Sucks, and the clerk, the clerk is in. This is such a well-paced episode. I thought there's so much going on. This clerk is like, ain't nothing gonna grow up at the Simpson farm, and of course, Homer being the city-fied person coming in, he's like, what do you know? And he goes, well, I know the pH is up around 9. And Homer goes, psh, that's a superstition.
I also know that you're not going to grow anything with gummy bears.
So it's funnier when he did. I love that. I love it because he grabs the tobacco and the tomato seeds, which are, of course, the crux of this episode. And he goes, you're grabbing the gummy bears. And Homer's like, dope. But cuts to him planting the field.
Right.
And Bart's like, what are you growing? And he opens his hand to show the seeds. He's like, I got a little bit of everything. And there's, of course, the gummy bear. There's a candy corn mixed in there, some blends, a couple of seeds.
Yeah. We could have gotten some really weird mutant tobacco candy corn gummy bear.
I think that would have been a bridge too far. It may have been discussed, though. You and I know it probably was discussed.
Or like a gummy bear candy corn, which just sounds god-awful. Candy corn is already a terrible candy. I can't imagine sullying the bestness of gummy bears.
Yeah, how do you make candy corn worse? Make it gelatinous,
Yeah, exactly. Of course, nothing grows, right? Like,
I love the line. They're in the field. They're trying to get the tractor flips over on again. He's trying to grow anything, and it's not growing. He goes, "Why isn't anything growing?" And Marge goes, "Maybe you need more fertilizer." One of my favorite lines is he goes, "Oh yeah, I'm only one man, Marge." He's producing his own fertilizer. It's another one of those images that they give you, which is, it didn't used to be on network TV. One of the best jokes in this movie, in this show, I thought.
Yeah, well, actually, you slipped there with the movie, but he also has a fertilizer or pig silo joke in there too, where he's talking about shitting in the pig silo. So but anyway, so how is Homer going to get around this predicament? How is he going to get something to grow?
Well, he of course calls his buddy Lenny because he's thinking about it. He's like, what can I do to make these grow? And he goes, oh, I've got it. Is there a secret juice to make things grow faster? And he calls Lenny, And Lenny's like, plutonium? He's, that's his idea. He goes, isn't that dangerous? He goes, oh, I guess you're right. It's not dangerous.
Lenny does not take much convincing at all. At first he's like, I don't know. And then he's like, okay. And they have a very weird, nonchalant, like just Lenny dropping the package off and saying, what's up to Carl?
Carl's like, send some mail, huh? He goes, don't you know it?
Yeah.
Carl's like, I'm probably going to send some tomorrow. And they're like, yeah. It's a great little moment there.
And then we cut to Homer being a dumbass again. What is
he
doing?
What I love is that very first scene, Josh, where he's in the barn.
Yep.
And he's taking it out of the big lead case. Yeah. And he's got the goggles on. He's got the tongs. And he's like carefully lifting it out. Easy. Sets it down very carefully. And then he dips his finger in
and does the gums. Yeah.
Gums would immediately kill him.
Yeah. And it was a beautifully animated shot when they showed the field glowing. And even Marge is it's eerily beautiful. And she looks at Homer. He's like, is that plutonium on your gums? Shut up and kiss me.
Shut up and kiss me.
Yeah.
I love it. That scene too. Marge says, is this safe? And he goes, probably not. But you know what they say. Sometimes you have to break the rules to free your heart. Marge's like, isn't that a movie poster? He goes, well, when there's nothing left to believe in hope. From the producers of Waiting to Exhale. So this is the grand idea, is to cover the field with plutonium. It's going to make the crops grow. He wakes up after one day and he's like, wake up, Marge, it's time to harvest it. And Marge is like, it's only been one night. And he goes, if we know one thing from the Colossus Man and Grasshopperus, is that plutonium makes things grow big and grow fast. And
I remember as a kid too, my dad would watch those movies like It with the giant ants. So it's my kind of assumption that this is kind of what they're going for there. Like back in the day, we didn't know what radiation was or plutonium or uranium or any of this fancy new tech. And we just kind of thought that it would make things grow real big, be it the Incredible Hulk or an ant, or in this case, we get tobacco.
I love that. I wonder why they don't make those kind of movies anymore, Josh. Those are fantastic.
Well, because we have Sharknado instead.
Yes, of course. And Pacific Rim.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, so, I love that Homer's like, everybody get ready, it's going to be there. And everybody crane your neck up to see the most amazing sight you'll ever see.
Oh, yeah, and they have a great thing where you see like all their noses are like pointing upwards, and they're like, it's a really fun animated shot.
It's the reveal of the giant crops, and there's, of course, nothing there. And I love Homer just goes running outside like, maybe they're invisible. and Josh, in that scene, he goes, well, I should listen to those Hicks. I'll go hang myself in the barn. Very dark humor.
Yeah. And then he's like, no, Dad, look. And he's like, this better be good. Like he was already set. He wasn't like,
this better be better than hanging myself.
Yeah, which I thought was pretty funny. And of course, they see a little bit of plant, and then we get some fun montages, right? Of like,
the Green Acres montage, and it shows you they're growing up these beautiful plants with these giant, beautiful looking red tomatoes on them.
So
and he's like, great, we're ready to harvest.
Did you notice that those tomatoes look like corn, but with tomatoes instead of corn? The way they were animated.
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, tomatoes are usually like smaller vines. They usually do not grow up to like the tall cornfields and whatnot. So I thought it was just kind of funny that it was the case. And like, who cares? But like, it just was kind of, to me, a humorous thing. I'm like, wait, that looks like corn tomato. Then so they end up being able to harvest it, right?
Well, so the first they figure out what it is by Bart running over, and he grabs one of these and he tastes it, and he spits it out. He's like, "This is disgusting."
Yes.
And it's like got tobacco brown inside. It's disgusting looking. And Lisa's like, they must have crossbred because of the plutonium. And Homer goes, great, I got a field of mutants.
I love the way like, because like Bart finishes the like eating the tomato, and he throws it on the ground and puts it out like a cigarette. And then he picks another one, and he's like, I can't stop eating
immediately.
Yeah, so we find out that this stuff is super addictive.
It's super addictive. And it gives Homer, of course, an idea. He's like, addictive. It cuts to the tomato stand, and he's trying to sell the new product, which he's named Tobacco.
Right. And I would like to interject right now because I found this out on the DVD commentary. Someone, a Simpsons fan named Rob Bauer from Lake Oswego, Oregon, actually grew tobacco. He
No shit.
Yeah. No, he was interested in it, and I guess he has the knowledge and the skills and the resources to get it done. And he actually was able to successfully grow a tomato tobacco hybrid. He even tested to make sure that it didn't have lethal amounts of nicotine, and it turned out that it was edible. And some of the people on the DVD commentary said that they actually received a tomato from this guy that was the cross, and it tasted fine, tasted like a normal tomato. But
Interesting.
I never knew this until this moment, and it's weird because I probably heard the commentary before, but maybe it just didn't register, or maybe I was playing World of Warcraft and had like raids to do or something of that nature. But I just thought that was a fun little fact. And if anybody's interested in this, you can definitely just Google it, and you'll get a bunch of articles popping up that this guy made actual tobacco.
Josh, we talked about it on the last episode, is how much effect The Simpsons has on American society, on worldwide society.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very influential show.
And Bart's like, that's clever, Dad, even for a product that's evil and deadly.
Yeah, and tobacco is a great name. It's just funny. Immediately you know what you're talking about. At least yeah.
I mean, I watched it years ago. I'll never forget it. I like Marge's line. She goes, I'm not a fan of the plutonium and nicotine, but I'm glad Bart is finally eating his vegetables.
Yeah.
And Bart's distended stomach. He's like got drooling down his vegetables.
Oh yeah, he's definitely like a full-blown addict at this point. And then we get our favorites, man. We get Wiggums. We both get Clancy.
The Wiggums pull up. Both of them, Chief and Ralph.
Yeah, Clancy.
And Clancy, he's going to take Ralph for his first cow tipping, and he sees the stand and goes, "What? Tobacco?"
I just love cow tipping. He's taking his son to go cow tipping. That's amazing.
It's a rite of passage, Josh.
It's so funny. Oh my god! And then, of course, I'm gonna let you do it.
Because they're like, here, try some, and they're offering it to Ralph. Of course, this horribly addictive daily thing, and Chief Wiggum's like, go ahead, Ralph, take what the stranger gives you. He's the worst cheese police ever.
And what does Ralph say?
He goes, "Oh, Daddy, this tastes like Grandma."
And then Clancy takes one. He's like, "It does taste like Grandma.
It does taste like Grandma." And he tastes it, and he buys a bushel because he's immediately hooked, of course.
Yeah.
And Marge is selling pies. She's like, "Can I interest you in a meat pie?" And he goes, "Does it have tobacco in it?" She's like, "No," but he's like, "Pass."
Yeah.
Everything's Twitter pated by there's this immediate effect on people where they have to have it.
Well, and then Homer is just like, "Marge, stop pushing the pies." Or something like that.
You're making everybody uncomfortable there.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Well, so Wiggum is just the start of the floodgates. Now that there's a huge line down the farm, and it just people are clamoring over it, and a big limo pulls up, and these tobacco executives who you knew were going to have to show up because they are evil. And pull Homer into the back, and she goes, the government says we can't sell tobacco to kids. And I love Homer goes, "Those lousy jerks." And she says, "But we can sell them tobacco. It'll be big money for you. 100 and 50 million." Yeah. And so they confer that since they're like, "Holy shit, he's offered us 150 million for this." And Lisa goes, "We can't take that money. They're a big and evil corporation, Dad." And Bart goes, "Lisa's right. They can afford a lot more. A lot more." And Bart goes, "I'm with Lisa. Let's stick them for all they're worth." And of course, Lisa's like, "Wait a minute."
I love it. I love it when everybody, like even Lisa was like not necessarily intending this, but she didn't complain afterwards. And I just love how they're all like, "Yeah, let's gouge the cigarette companies. Yeah. Larmy Cigarettes can afford it." I also
you could get a lot of Malibu Stacy's with $150 million. Yeah, and of course Homer comes back and he's like, "We'll take 150 billion," which is much more than the company would be worth. And so they drive off, and he goes, "They'll be back. We still control the world's supply of tobacco." Oh no, because now the livestock have destroyed their crop.
Well, and it's a wide range of livestock too.
That's great.
We have an ostrich.
All of them.
We have sheep. We have cows. We have bulls. We have
Chickens,
horses,
yeah.
chickens. Just a cornucopia of animals.
Oh, this plan is trouble. I mean, this plan has got everybody, in a daze of anger and violence. And, there's one tomato plant that destroyed the entire farm in a very short period of time. And there's one plant left, and of course Hammer runs after it to save this last plant. He has to fight off the cow that's just like a rabid dog, and he gets the cow to drop it. Josh, like, what? Look, a flying saucer!
Yeah, that was a funny joke. They definitely personified the cow a little bit with like, and I also like how as they're getting
maybe you've been probed, Josh. We don't know.
Right, and I do like when they're getting chased. You see, like the animators added like purple rings to one of the eyeballs on most of the animals too, and
they get like bruising around their eyes, like they haven't slept in days, like they're hooked on crank, and
then
they're in the house,
right?
And Homer's like taking care of this last one,
yep.
And the sheep who becomes like this, terrifying figure, his bloodshot eyes is in the window, and Marge screams. He's like, it's so violently addicted. It's like evolving in this moment to speak,
right?
To get after it, and they attack the house, and be terrifying scenes. Dozens of rabid animals trying to eat your soul.
Well, and I love how the ostrich tries to eat Homer's head, and then he's like, and that's the straw that broke the camel's back, and he throws the tobacco plant, and it just happens to land in Mindy's hands.
He flies out the window, and it lands in Mindy's arms. She's like, okay, thanks.
I love when they're on the helicopter too, and it's like, props to Mindy for the grab, and they do like a high five.
High five. And then, of course, the great moment is the pilot's like, hey, we've taken on some extra weight. And the sheep with the terrifying bloody eyes go, and they all scream and violently crash to the ground. A huge explosion.
Yeah, I also love how they show
tobacco is gone,
survives.
And the sheep.
The sheep survives. No, the sheep jumps away.
Yes.
Yeah. Because it's okay to kill people, but not the sheep.
They should have had a sequel to that movie.
Yeah. And so what I love about
sheep right there.
Obviously, the farm is now bust. So what do? They return home, forgetting what? What did they forget?
They're like, Homer's like, he's like, they ride up in front of the house. He's like, oh, it's nice to be home. And of course he goes, because the dueling colonel is just sitting there with his wife, like on deck chairs in their front yard. And he's like, I'm ready, sir. And there's no get out of it now, so they're gonna duel. And Homer's like, oh, and then he's like 7, 8, 10 paces, 9, 6. What is that intoxicating aroma? Is that a mince pie? I do declare.
And
Marge's mint pies. I mean, it's just one of those random throwbacks that saves the day. The mince pie. And he's completely forgot about the duel, and he's just enjoying this pie. And of course, Homer goes, hey, I thought we were dueling. Oh, Homer.
My comment on that was just dumbass Homer finishing the duel.
It's a dumber.
And so, like, he gets shot in the arm. Everybody starts to eat pie.
I'm sorry. Where are my manners?
Yeah. So, I mean, that's pretty much the end of the episode, too. Everything's fine. We're assuming Homer is okay with the gunshot to the arm.
Well, of course, Bart says, are you okay, Dad? He goes, I think so. The bone stopped the bullet, which is just terribly painful telling. Yeah. And Lisa goes, maybe this is one of those things where you should go to the hospital, Homer. And he goes, after pie. And that's it. Yeah. That's the end. After pie, before his health, of course. They should be good mince pies for all that. Well, close, of course, with the. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, well, thanks for bringing us to that episode, man. That was a lot of fun. There was a couple parts that got a little old for me, like I said, with the tractor and whatnot. And to be honest, like with the animals going crazy at the end, I'm like, oh, you guys are just trying to wrap this up. So
it did feel a bit like, where do we go from here?
Now we've done all the farm bits that we want to do. We got to have them go back and finish the duel, I guess.
I love the farm. The farm animals going nuts over it is what brought me back to that, tobacco of the sheep. Bubbling out of him and such
very nice.
But Josh, you remember, of course, over the credits, they're replaying the Glove Slap song, which is
Glove slap,
Glove Slap, baby Glove Slap. There are some great lyrics that I went to look them up. I couldn't find them, but there's some great lyrics to that song as well.
Awesome. Well,
Yep.
okay, so that knocks out our first episode, and now we're going to take a break for one of our sponsors.
Greetings and salutations from your friends at the Aztec Theaters. We wanted to let you know about a brand new remodel, stadium seating, comfy cushions, and for the time being, non-sticky floors. We've also added new items to our concession stand like butter-drenched milk duds and Skittle Brew IPAs. Here are some of the films currently showing at the Aztec Theaters. Return of the Happy Little Elves. Space Mutants 4, the trilogy continues. Honk if you're horny. And Too Many Grandmas. Come to the Aztec Theaters today.
And we're back. So now it's my turn to pick an episode, and I chose Trilogy of Error from season 12, episode 18. This was directed by Michael B. Anderson and written by Matt Selman. So a quick question for you, Robin, before we start. Have you ever seen the movies Go or Run Lola Run?
Funniest thing, Josh, is I was just looking at the great theater. It's been in Atlanta forever, and they show a bunch of movies, that are not new movies. And they are showing a movie which I love, which is Go. Back in the day, the kid from Seventh Heaven, I think he was in one of those kind of shows, takes a wild leap to the right, and they reference both of those. And seeing that made me remember the movie that came out at the same time, which is Run Lola Run. Fantastic movie.
Yeah, that's the one that I've seen. I haven't seen Go, but I've seen Run Lola Run at when I was definitely that stoner in community college who wanted to get those easy credits for the film class. And Run Lola Run, if I'm not mistaken, was shown during that. I hope my memory is getting too muched up there. And much like those movies, what we have for this story structure, and Matt Selman nailed this like very, very well. I actually think this is better than Go and Run Lola Run myself. And what we do is we have one day, and it's told through 3 different perspectives that crisscross throughout the day. And by the end of it, they all have a story that comes together. And then as they were kind of joking on the DVD commentary, they're like, that's our method. We just steal something nobody's seen. Because Run Lola Run is definitely an independent film, and I don't know, like Go is kind of like a cult classic, like
I mean, same thing. It was indie theater at the time.
Yeah, kind of like SLC Punk. There's these weird kind of movies that are a lot of fun if you've seen them. I would maybe even throw Snatch on there, but maybe that's too high with the Guy Ritchie stuff.
Sure.
So we start off with the same scene is going to repeat every single day, and we open up with the classic trash being taken out, and poor Ned Flanders loses his mailbox.
Poor Ned Flanders. There's no nicer guy in the world, and
he's just drinking his coffee, looking out at the beautiful day, thanking God for existence, and then there goes his mailbox.
Doodly.
And we see a throwing of the morning newspaper, and we get a great joke that says, first day of spring, ants and picnickers reach last minute accord.
The ants on the covers, you gotta give it the big thumbs up.
Yeah. So it made me wonder too, like I just imagine them having like town meetings with this, and like Mayor Quimby is trying to be like some kind of negotiator or diplomat between the two warring parties. Fun little joke. And we start off with Homer's Day. So each of these episodes are gonna start. They'll kind of do like the classic Wile E. Coyote Roadrunner freeze frame, and they'll have Homer's Day at the bottom. And we all start at the breakfast table. And Marge isn't giving us the usual breakfast. It's some really disgusting looking stuff.
Mucilix.
Yeah, there you go. That's super sticky. It did not look appetizing to me. How about you?
No.
Do you want to give this a try?
No, I mean it looked like taffy, brown globule taffy that gets stuck in your mouth and you can't chew it away, and everybody's horrified by it. Even Lisa, who's normally known for eating a healthy meal.
I love the baby animation too, because Maggie gets all stuck in it, and it's like sticky glue or something to that nature, and
exactly,
so it gets everywhere, and
rubber cement.
Yeah, very well animated, funny stuff there. So, everyone's trying to get the fuck out of breakfast because it's just awful. And you hear the classic ding dong, ding dong, ding 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 dong, and Mart's like, "Oh, Full House," and he has something important to say. And Lisa, of course, like tries to give like Homer an out, and he's like, "I'll get us out of this, Dad. Hey, Dad, you want to help me with my project?" No, Lisa, but I definitely don't want to stay here and eat this crappy breakfast.
And Marge is so, she just faces crestfallen. She tried to do this nice, healthy breakfast.
Marge actually has a lot more to do in this episode than in the last one, but like she's still like the butt end of jokes sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
So we cut away to Homer with Lisa and introduces Linguo, the grammar fixing bot. Lisa's a genius. She made a full-on robot who can fix grammar. And of course, Homer, being the asshole that he is, he decides to feed it beer.
Because the robot, he goes, "Do you like beer?" And he goes, "I like beer." And he goes, "Oh!" Gives him beer.
Yeah, no. Homer says, "Me love beer." And then the robot says, "I love beer." And he's like, "Oh, well, let me give you some beer." Because Homer is a generous fellow when it comes to, I guess, getting robots beer. Maybe that's foreshadowing the Bender episode that we get in the other seasons. So we see Lisa run off, and because it's not her day, we no longer are following her. We go back to Homer, and Marge is in the kitchen making brownies, probably as a makeup gesture for that awful breakfast that she made. She's like, "Well, I better make brownies." This is my own headcanon here. This isn't really part of the show, but I was like, why is she all of a sudden like just making brownies? Well, because we need to have Homer be an idiot playing around. And Marge, for some reason, is using a butcher knife to cut brownies. Now, I don't know what you use to cut brownies, Robin, but I don't use a butcher knife. And I thought that was very strange. But you know what?
Plays into the gag.
We need the plot to happen. So Homer is being an idiot and trying to get the brownie while Marge is cutting, and his thumb gets cut off.
She's like blocking him out. He's like, "I'm going to get it. I'm going to get it. I'm going to get it."
Yeah, and so the thumb gets cut off, and then
it's horrible. It's a horrible.
Marge wraps it up, and they very much did a detailed job of the thumb.
Throughout Josh, the episode, we got another.
Yes, very good. And so, like the thumb is super more detailed than it usually is. I don't know if you noticed this, Robin, but like there's a fingernail a lot of the times. You
see like the wrinkles and the knuckle,
the little bone too. And the reason they did that is because they had to add the extra detail according to the commentary. Because without that, it looked too much like a penis.
It does shrivel throughout the episode.
Yeah. And so the dog takes the thumb, and Homer, he does his classic thing. He's like, "Okay, boy. Drop the thumb."
He's not going to give it up.
Nobody's going to tackle you, which I thought was hilarious. And Marge calls the cops. I don't know why she calls the cops over like the ambulance or some kind of medical assistance, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's you call 911 for medical assistance. So,
right.
She's like, "I cut my husband's finger off trying to get the ambulance."
And so Chief Wiggum answers the phone and is like, "Oh, you just admitted to attempted murder." And she's like, I'm at 123 Fake Street.
She had to give it, because she's like, "I'm going to come arrest you." So she had to like, "Oh no, I'm not there."
And a sidebar,
Fake Street.
As you know, I have to do a lot of paperwork for my day job. And I once used 123 Fake Street as an example of where you're supposed to fill in your address.
I've 100% done that.
Here's the thing. The person kept the address. They're like, "Oh, thanks for putting that address in for me." And it's like, that is a joke. It says 123 Fake Street. Like, what? So, like, it's one of those things where, like, I found my, like, real life Wiggum. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like, I just...
Maybe what are the odds?
Yeah. So I
sounds so generic,
right? So then we cut to I guess the Flanders, and they're reading Harry Potter because Homer's and Flanders mentions how he's going straight to hell because he practices wizardry, and so Homer's
it's like the end of the story is, and then they all went to hell for practicing witchcraft, and the kids are like, "Yay!"
So eventually they get Homer's thumbs back, and they while driving. Marge is driving Homer. They rear end Rainier Wolfcastle, and he proceeds to smash the windshield in with a golf club. Now,
Robin, of course, like an Arnold Schwarzenegger take.
He is an Arnold Schwarzenegger guy, but do you remember
car?
Do you remember the other celebrity who in real life did this?
Was it Dolph Lundgren?
No, it was Jack Nicholson in 1994.
No way.
So Jack Nicholson in 1994 had a road rage incident where he pulled out a golf club and started smashing in the windshield. Now, I do not know if that's the exact reference or not, but it definitely reminiscent of that. So anyway, while the destruction is happening, the Marge and Homer are very clever and they sneak into the sports car that he was driving and they take off. So now they're in a faster, nicer celebrity car, and they finally make it to Dr. Hibbert's, who informs him that a thumb is not a finger and is HMO optimized coverage.
See, I mean, it's classic, dig at American healthcare system. The thumb is not a finger, Homer.
Right. And he's like, you should have gotten the thumb insurance, which is just, if anybody has gotten to a certain age and had to deal with the medical bureaucracy in the United States, like that just makes so much sense. So they're going to have to hightail it to the other doctor in Springfield, Dr. Nick. But as they're journeying, they realize
the ice is melting on his finger.
Correct. So where do they go?
So he needs to get more ice. And so they pass Moe's, of course. And what's coming is he runs in to get some ice. And Moe is like, hey, let's put it in the pickle jar.
Yep, because he always has those pickled eggs. So Homer throws it in there, and he's about to leave. He actually does the smart thing. For 2 seconds, he's like, okay, got to get my thumb back on, turn it around. And then Moe is like, hey, Homer, you're not going to leave without having a beer, are you?
Don't you want to have a beer, Homer?
Yeah, so, of course, like, he starts going into a
He's like, I shouldn't with all the blood loss.
Yeah. And so he starts drinking, and then he passes out, and then they wake him up with a pot of coffee that they pour down his throat. And
he's just sitting there. He just has 2 beers. He's drunk because he's lost all the blood. He's going on and on and on. Passes out.
And then, so he leaves, and Marge is gone. We don't know what happened to Marge at this point in the story. So she's
gone.
She tries to hitchhike without a thumb, which is hilarious. And,
just sitting there like, why isn't this working?
Yep. And then Cletus picks him up, and we get another pig joke. So much like you have The Simpsons on the Lamb, I apparently have Cletus and pig jokes.
Yep. I was going to tell you.
Because he's like, don't let anybody tell you a pig won't bite off some fingers. And he like shows like his hand that only has like a pinky, a thumb, and a middle finger.
I have a question for you, Josh. Who voices Cletus?
I don't know off the top of my head.
We're going to have to look that up for the next episode. We'll make a note of it.
Who voices Cletus?
Yeah, the miracle of technology.
Hank Azaria.
It is. I did not recognize that.
Yeah. Well, Hank does a pretty good... He also does Wiggum, if I'm not mistaken, as well, and Moe.
Yes, he does.
So good stuff there.
Moe.
So they make it to Dr. Nick's, and we get one of the fucking amazing lines that I love from The Simpsons. Like, inflammable means flammable. What a country!
A country!
So unfortunately, it's
Nick's is burning down.
It's on fire. There's no way he can get medical services. So Homer is kind of destitute, and he walks off, and he throws his
up basically.
Yeah, he gets up, and he's like, he kind of says like, "Goodbye, little guy. We had a good run."
Had a good run.
And he's like, his other thumb is like, "We'll miss you," and he's like wiggling his other thumb, which is pretty funny. And then out of nowhere, we get an explosion, and Lingo's head comes flying out, and that's the end of the first story.
Lingo dead? Lingo is dead.
Perfection. And so now we go back to the start as this thing is, and we go back to the mailboxes, we go back to the newspaper, and we find out that it is now Lisa's day. This is a segment where we get a lot of the Run Lola Run vibes from.
Exactly.
Mostly because of the music and the camera work.
And it's a direct link. They based off it, and you get the music, which is so important in Run Lola Run. They have this Lisa's like booking it around the episode.
Yeah, they do a lot of like crazy panning in and out, and like she's kind of running at a blur. It almost looks like she's in italics, so to speak.
It's constant running, just
right.
Go.
And so, she repairs Lingo and is trying to get to school. That's her big journey for this episode, is try to get to school to show off Lingo for her project.
It's the science fair.
Her science fair.
It's the science fair. Man, you don't mess with the science fair and Lisa.
Yeah, absolutely. So, she tries to get a ride, but of course, Homer and Marge have already driven off because of the thumb incident. And she goes to get her bike, and her bike's missing. So she has to run. And then she almost gets hit by Krusty, who has Mr. Teeny, the chimpanzee, the smoking chimp. So we also have a smoking chimp back.
I wonder how many of our episodes we're going to have Teeny in. He's a great character.
And then, of course, we get Wiggum stopping, and you would think, and logically, you'd be like, "There's a monkey driving that limo. That can't be right."
No. But no, Josh.
No, he's
He
like,
asks
"Hey,
him for directions.
hey, Mr. Teeny, do you know where 123 Fake Street is?"
He's like, I can't understand a word you say. Is what it says in the when it,
The subtitles for the monkey.
yes, in the subtitles of what Teeny says.
Yeah,
Hilarious.
yeah. And then, so Lisa actually is very lucky that Krusty is in a very generous mood today and not hungover or having to do some other kind of nefarious things.
We're hating kids.
Krusty gives him a ride to Springfield, but it's West Springfield Elementary. So when Lisa goes into the school, we get a lovely joke, and they're speaking in French. And according to the DVD commentary from Matt Selman, the writer, it's that they are saying the frog eats the grapefruit in the English translation. So that's what they're saying when she enters. And so naturally they make fun of her for being at the wrong Springfield, and all the kids start laughing. And then the teacher goes, Francais. Which I love. So Lisa leaves, but she runs into Thelonious, and they nerd out. And this is voiced by Frankie Muniz. From the Malcolm in the Middle show.
Malcolm in the Middle fame.
Now, I don't know what your love life was like when you were in grade school, but they were spinning for hours. That was true love, baby. Lingo and Thelonious and Lisa were, just having a good old time. And then Lisa snaps.
Beautiful.
And she's like, wait, oh shit, I got to get back to school. I got to get my A's, but what about our love? And he's like, no, do not sacrifice love for grades. That's not the girl I fell for.
It's the science fair, Josh. You don't mess with the science fair.
And then she's like, what, will they ever see each other again? He's like, yes, at the Magnet School High School. Which I thought was really cute.
He was touching.
Yeah. And so Lisa is wandering around and passes Moe's. And of course she's like, oh, Dad probably has the shakes by now. So she, just the readily knowledge of what alcoholism is and that their father is one. And it's always there, which is very funny. And inside Moe's, we hear Wiggum trying to manage an illegal fireworks sting. And for some reason, they give this informant a 2-ray radio. I don't know, if that's a feature that I need.
Because Lisa's like, Chief, can you come? He's like, no, we're going to sting. We've got an informant in there. And it's somebody talking to Fat Tony about, yes, I will sell you some illegal fireworks.
I do like your Fat Tony. That one's pretty good. Yeah,
I appreciate it, Josh. Yeah. And I slipped into that Josh thing every once in a while. But yes, we will sell you some illicit fireworks, sir. And Lisa goes, is that Fat Tony?
Yeah.
she's like, well, let's check.
Yeah. Hey, is that you, Fat Tony?
Is that you, Fat Tony?
And then you hear explosions go off, and it's like,
that guy's wearing a wire.
You could have repeated that line from the episode we did last week. It's like, I'm not good.
I don't even know how to work my VCR.
Yeah. So, Marge is now in front of Moe's, and she ends up giving Lisa a drive because we hear Homer going on about the Blue Man Group, and she just kind of sighs like, oh, he's going to be on that for hours.
It's a total rip-off of the Smurfs.
Yeah. And so they take off. And, of course, the car runs out of gas. And then magically, Cletus's truck drives by, which Homer in the front, which is interesting. And they have, what do you call it? Where am I getting at here? Right. So they hop on it, they hitch a ride, but they cut to Homer and Cletus in the cab, and he keeps doing this magic trick, and he's like, and he's like doing the old removing your thumb, right? And he's like abracathumbra, which was pretty funny. And then this is when we got one of 2 deleted scenes that we had for this episode. And the only reason I bring this up is because they're connected. So Homer tries another magic trick in the deleted scene, but then we meet Cletus's tick Chester. So Cletus has a pet tick named Chester, and I can see why they cut it because it doesn't really fit into the story, but it's pretty funny because in another scene when Marge is in the car, the Chester tick comes back. So there's a callback for this, which is funny. So Homer and Cletus run off to Dr. Nick's, and we find out that Marge is the one who stole the truck in the first place.
Right.
So, that's a lot of fun.
Because it's almost 3:00. Lisa's got to get to the science fair.
Right, and you know, and this is the point too, where Cletus and Homer were running off to find Dr. Nick's place in flames. So now we have a blah blah blah. Where am I?
They're shooting off to the school, but I love when they're stealing the car. Marge is
right.
like, well, I've already stolen one car today. You know, what's another
Yeah,
one?
Marge is getting shit done. She's in the moment. I really do like it. And so then it cuts to Marge almost hitting Bart, who's coming out of the manhole, and that ends the second story.
Yep.
So, final day is Bart. We get a lovely Krusty the Clown alarm
Same
clock.
intro, same intro. You know.
Yep. And then it cuts to Bart waking up, and we get a very cool Krusty alarm clock, and he hits the snooze button. Great. And then what happens? We get Itchy and Scratchy coming out and hitting him in the head with little mallets.
Exactly, because Krusty's like, "Oh, you're lazy! Get him, boys!" And they come out and they're just pounding on his head.
Yes. Yeah. So you know, we get the classic doorbell thing, and it cuts to we find out that Bart and Milhouse took bikes, and Milhouse has taken Lisa's bike. And there's a great thing where Bart pulls out a comically sized key ring, and he's just like, Skinner, you know, Dad's car,
Flanders, your house.
Bike. Yeah. So apparently he has a huge ring of keys for everything in the city.
Oh, he's a thief. He's a miscreant.
Right. And then so Bart's like, how's it like riding a girl's bike? And Milhouse replies, it's disturbingly comfortable.
It's disturbingly comfortable.
And of course they go to the cave.
They're deep in the woods at the the narrow, dark cave.
Bart asks, like, where'd you find this place? And Milhouse is like, this is where I come to cry.
Oh, poor Milhouse.
Which is just so fucking funny. And they find a hidden stash of fireworks and they blow some shit up. Did you have a fun favorite joke? They kind of have a little montage of them blowing stuff up. Did any of them stick out to you?
Oh, it's the favorite. It's the Tijuana toilet cracker.
Yeah, well, that's coming up though. But they had a montage of them blowing up like gnomes and other things, and they had like a Civil War statue with a cannon in it, so they were stuffing that full of fireworks and having it go off. And then finally, they decided to strap a few rockets to Lisa's bike on the front wheel, and they're going to have Milhouse do some Evel Knievel stunts. But the wheel comes off and goes flying down the street. And we find out that's the thing that sets off the explosion at Dr. Nick's, which creates the fire that we didn't know how it happened before.
That's right. I've forgotten that.
Yeah, so that was a lot of fun. So then the boys are running away from the explosion, and they drop into a building. 1, 2, 3, Fake Street.
Fake Street.
And and then we got the cops finally figured out where 1, 2, 3 Fake Street is. Now, kids, this is before we had GPS, so maybe their Thomas guy didn't have an accurate map, or maybe they just don't know where this street is in the city. So it does take them a little bit of time, but the cops show up, and Wiggum has a throwaway line. He's like, "Time to arrest knifey wifey," which I thought was hilarious. And then they come in and they see the the stash of fireworks and the two boys, and they're like, "Oh wow, it's a hardcore cracker house in here." And then another line that I love is like, "There's enough Chinese sky candy here to put you boys away for a long time," which is funny. So to get out of trouble,
Milhouse is like, "I can't go to juvie. They're gonna pass me around like currency." That's pretty dark humor.
And then Wiggum does what?
He goes, "Yeah, you're somebody like you. They're gonna pass you around like like currency, actually, like you said."
Yeah. So to get out of trouble, they agree to be the informants that we were introduced to earlier. So now things are kind of coming full circle. They're strapping the wire to Bart, and they're going to go back to the mobsters and try to do a sting for the illegal firework collection.
In the cave where Milhouse cries.
Yep. So we're back to the crying cave. And of course, as we saw before, Wiggum fucks up and he's like, "Ah, is that you, Fat Tony?"
And so the same dialogue that came through the radio.
And so Bart, thinking quick, he makes an explosion to distract people, and we have the chase is on. So we have the mobsters, 3 of them chasing Bart and Milhouse, and they proceed to go up a manhole. And this is where we connect to the last story because
they chasing and shooting with guns. I mean,
yeah, and they have sparklers too, so they can see, which was a cute cute little thing there.
They look adorable. The mobsters look adorable with their sparklers.
So Marge slams on the brakes and just hits Bart in the back of the head, and it makes a very loud clunky noise, which I thought was kind of hilarious. It's like
it's just like, ow.
He's totally fine, and they run off. So then Marge and Lisa start chasing the mobsters who are chasing the kids, right?
Yep.
And they get to a situation where everybody's kind of stuck in a back alley, and they're like not sure what's going to happen. So
the dead end.
The kids hop over the fence. The mobsters hop over the fence. Fat Tony kicks down the boxes so Marge can't follow. And Marge is desperate to save her little boy. So she just looks at the first thing she finds is lingo and she throws it. It's just like a motherly response, like, you throw.
No, throws lingo.
Yep.
He busts on the ground.
And then he sits on the ground and he turns on. He turns on for some reason. And we get this hilarious classic mob talk overloading. He's like, shut up your face. Shut up your face. What are you talking about? Gabagoo.
I'm going to give you a big labanza.
Yeah. And this is what causes lingo to short circuit because he just can't handle the mob talk, which is hilarious.
Bad grammar, overload.
And then it explodes. And this is
the explosion. Sparking, yeah.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. It does start sparking, and it sparks right next to a bag of fireworks.
Never a good idea.
Causes a giant explosion, which is why Lingo's head in Homer's story went flying through the air. So now we have Homer brings Lingo's head to the explosion with the thumb, but we don't have any resolution at all.
And Homer's magically there in the alley.
Yeah, he shows up. He runs back to the alley. It's not that far. But thankfully, we have the wise and helpful Fat Tony, and he's like, I think I have a solution for our predicament, or something of that nature.
I think that I have a solution that you will find mutually beneficial.
And so then we cut to the classroom, very hard cut, and Legs has an experienced mob doctor reattaches.
Not just the classroom; it's the science fair. Josh.
It's the science fair. Reattaches the thumb while Lisa narrates, and she gets an A. And then we have to wrap up this episode, so it's very much like kind of like a sitcom where like all of a sudden all the people are kind of gathered around. And there's like Mr. Teeny and Krusty and the mobsters and like so everybody who was like a part of this, like Wiggum and everybody are all there. And
as Lisa wins the science fair,
right? And Marge states, "It sure was one crazy day," and like very much in a sitcom-esque way of wrapping it up. And then the very last scene is Mr. Teeny jumping into Marge's arms, and he's squeaking and squawking. And in the subtitle it says, This plot made no sense.
This plot made no sense.
And according to the DVD commentary, they kind of did that in case people were going to complain that there was holes in the plot. And they're like, no, if we recognize that there's like a hole or it doesn't make sense, then it's good, right?
Well, it's arbitrary, but it's the same thing you were saying about the episode previously, E.I.E.I.D.O., that they didn't really know how to end it there, so they just did this.
Yeah, and so that's Trilogy of Error. What are your closing thoughts on this episode, Robin?
Well, one thing is Fat Tony, and that is voiced by the great Joe Mantegna, who's been in just about everything. And he's such a fantastic character. And his part in this, I thought, really helped drive it. And I really did love the throwbacks to the movies. These were, at the time, movies on the fringe that I loved. I was in film and theater. And so it was a great, great reference for me. It was a lot of fun to have that callback.
Yeah, and it was very clear on the commentary that this was Matt Selman's baby. He came up with the idea. There was very little edits to it, which is rare because a lot of times by the time the writer who submits it, their work gets altered, and everybody works it and punches it up. But this one was mostly complete from the get-go, which is rare, but also shows how much time he spent to make sure all the plots intermingled correctly and everything kind of made sense for it, which is a very challenging thing to do when you're doing this type of film or show.
Very clever.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's a wrap for Sacrilicious with Robin and Snerts. We hope you enjoyed this episode. If you're feeling generous, then please leave a 5-star review with a few sentences. I also would like to thank the following people for showing support on the social medias. There's this really cool group of content creators on Twitter that I've known for like the last 3 or 4 years now. And everybody kind of promotes each other and helps each other out and raises their platform. So I just wanted to give a couple shout outs to them. We're going to start off with James Gavsey, who's the host of the Who Would Win show. And I also want to thank the fan base, the legion of audience. I also would like to thank Delvin Cox of the Delvin Cox Experience, Crystal Storm and her partner Pixel from Tales of the Forgotten Network, Matthew Dawson from the Motorverse Network, and Dr. Moxford, the raddest fan of them all. Do you want to hear more from your old pal Snerts? Then check out the PlayStation Experience on your podcast platform of choice. I can also be found on Twitter at Lord Snerts. Robin, got any plugs? Got anything that people can find you at?
Shop at Quickie Mart and mention our name and you get 15% off.
That's awesome. That's very good. And does that include the gravestones in
Absolutely
in aisle 9? Excellent.
Yes.
Well, that's all from us. Smell you later, true believers.
Smell you later. I can't believe that place. Goodbye.